Guru gudu, guru gudu guru, giri giri, giri giri giri, gazange, gazange, giri giri, giri giri giri, guru gudu, guru gudu guru, giri giri, giri giri giri, gazange, gazange, giri giri, giri giri giri, guru gudu, guru gudu guru, giri giri, giri giri giri, gazange, gazange, giri giri, giri giri giri, guru gudu.
Hi, my name is Anaya, and today I want to talk to you about a clean house and how a clean house helps with depression. One of the ways that a clean house helps with depression is that the more in order your environment is, then the more in touch you are with your reality. At least the more in touch I am with my reality. And the truth of the matter is that the reality for a lot of God-fearing, loving people is that they're depressed. And it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're not God-fearing or that God doesn't love you. It just simply means that there is not order with the emotion of pain, which means that there needs to be some emotional healing in a particular area of your life. No big deal. I know some really serious God-loving people who died of cancer. What does that mean? That God doesn't love them? No. It just means that we're human and we have thorns in our flesh. Just like Paul did. So depression is an indication that the emotion of pain is out of order, and anything that is operating outside of order, God's order, is going to be very painful, and there are serious consequences for that, right? Just like having a fornicating and then the relationship breaking up. How do you feel? Devastated, because that's not the order of God. And depression is not the order of God either. And because it is not an emotion that is in the will of God, many people, when they feel it, they want to flee it. And I don't blame them, because depression is not an emotion that we were ever supposed to be feeling in the first place. See, depression basically means, from my understanding and my experience with it and my deliverance from it, right? In the speaking community, there's two things that make somebody credible: education or experience. I have experience. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the co-founders of Depression Anonymous. So I just broke my anonymity, and I just wanted to do that for the Christian community, and I'm okay with that. So anyway, depression, as I have grown to understand it, it means that I am feeling an emotion that is outside of the will of God and outside of the grace of God. Okay? Depression is an emotion that is so painful. And the reason that it's painful is because it's outside of the will of God and it's outside of the grace of God. When you are dealing with operating inside of God's will, He gives you the grace to do whatever it is that you want to do, right? So when I feel pain to the extent that I'm overwhelmed, or I'm unable to function, or I am depressed, that is an indication to me that I have taken on pain that belongs to somebody else, and I have let that pain become my pain. See, I've heard a lot of theories about depression, and I've done a lot of research, including people's dissertations and everything. I've heard theories like, oh, well, depression is anger turned in on the self. That didn't really resonate for me. But I did not get delivered from depression until I began to apply this theory. And that theory was, I was carrying emotions that belonged actually to my grandmother, and I was carrying it as if it were my own emotion. In other words, it goes like this. See, my grandmother had a lot of pain, and she just had an 8th grade education. You know, she didn't really know how to have boundaries with her emotions, and I love her. But this is my testimony. This is my reality. She had a lot of pain, and I did not know how to separate her pain from who I was and my pain. See, God only gives us enough that we can bear. So what I would do was, when I saw my grandmother in pain, right, I would take her pain, let it cross the boundaries of who I am, let it drop into my emotions, and then I would keep it there, and I began to carry my grandmother's pain as if it was my pain. And the overload of carrying my pain and my grandmother's pain was depression. See? Because it is not in God's will for me to carry somebody else's pain. However, it is in God's will for me to feel compassion for hurting people. But see, in order to feel compassion and empathy, I keep a boundary up. See, boundaries keep us inside of the will of God. And the will of God is that I am only responsible for my emotional well-being. I am not responsible for another person's happiness. Another person's happiness. And the boundary number 2 is that other people aren't responsible for my happiness. I'm responsible for my own happiness, and I'm responsible to maintain my own emotions. Well, see, my grandmother didn't know that. And I didn't know that, because boundaries is something that has to be taught. Children do not automatically understand boundaries. So what I would do was I would take on my grandmother's pain. I took on my mother's pain. I took on everybody's pain. I let their pain come inside my pain, and I got overloaded, and I got overwhelmed, and I got depressed. And see, God does not give us the grace to handle pain that belongs to somebody else, because there's a Savior for that. Now, He does give me the grace to have empathy for people, but empathy and compassion happens with a boundary that protects my emotions from getting so absorbed in what's going on with them that I'm not able to do the purposes and the function that God has for me to do. See, there's a difference between Christianity and codependency. Christianity is the blessed life. Codependency is the cursed life. So my grandmother was in a lot of pain. I took her pain and added it to my pain, and I became so depressed that I was not able to function and to be used by God in the manner that He wanted me to be used. And one of the things I had to start doing was I had to start owning up to that. You see, I thought that I was loving my grandmother when I took in her pain. I thought that I was loving her when I let her emotions become my emotions. I thought that it was love when I didn't separate who I was from another person. I thought that I was loving her when I jeopardized my emotional well-being in order for her to feel comfortable. But that's not love. That's not Christianity. That's codependency. And see, God began to teach me that the reason that you're depressed is because you are carrying pain inside of your emotions that do not belong inside of your emotions. They belong to whoever the pain belonged to, because God will never give me more pain, more fear, more anger, or more shame than I can handle. And a boundary keeps me from being overwhelmed by other people's pain. If I am depressed, then I am carrying pain that belongs to somebody else. I have allowed their pain to come over and across my boundaries, drop into my emotions, and now I'm carrying their pain, and I think that their pain is my pain because I have been disillusioned, lied to. See, that's the devil. That's not love. But I felt guilty about that. But there is therefore now no guilt and condemnation to them who walks not after the flesh. See, that was a fleshly kind of love. That was not a godly kind of love, because God is a God of order. And in order for us to be used, He needs for us to get our emotions in order. So one of the first things that I had to do was I had to start praying. I began to pray about it, and I asked God. I said, God, this theory, this new depression theory that's come out, what do you have to say about it? And He said, why don't you fast and pray and ask me to take emotions out of you that belong to your grandmother. See what happens. So I fasted and prayed about it, right? And the first thing I had to confront was the guilt, because I felt guilty. My grandmother used guilt and shame to control every last one of us. And I soon learned that that's a spirit of witchcraft, right? So first I had to get through the guilt. But as I finally began to pray and ask God, only let me feel my pain. Take away the pain that I feel from my grandmother. Take away the pain that not the pain that I feel, but the pain that I carry from my grandmother. Take away the pain that I carry from my mother. I got delivered from depression. Thank you for watching. God bless you.